Yes, today, September 30th, is Caribbean Youth Day. So it's really, I think, important that we're having these kinds of conversations today. And welcome to this session called Creating Connection, Fostering Inclusive, Collaborative Parent-School Partnerships as a part of our second Transforming Education Symposium and Policy Dialogue. For those of you who have not yet met me, I'm Kimberly Gittins. I'm a social analyst with the Caribbean Development Bank. Last year, I was in the Cayman Islands for the first Transforming Education Symposium and Policy Dialogue. And I had the pleasure of working with the young people. At that time, I designated myself a senior youth. Well, today, I have the pleasure of working with the additional senior youth, but consultant with UNICEF, and I will share additional information and principles. And when I looked at the agenda and I saw the session that I would moderate, what resonated with me is that I actually have the opportunity to tell principals when to speak, how to approach their session, and when they must close off on their presentation. It's not something that you get to do too often, so I'm really excited about this. So why are we here? This session will explore strategies for cultivating school environments that actively welcome parents and prioritize their role in shaping positive educational experiences. Through shared practices and honest conversation, I want to say candid conversation, this session will equip you, attendees, with the tools to foster trust, enhance collaboration, and form lasting partnerships between schools and families. And we saw the earlier presentations, the nexus, the correlation between parental engagement and success in education. So this discussion, hearing from the consultant and the principals, is absolutely important. We've got 60 minutes for this session. I'll introduce each of our presenters, and once they're through, we'll open up for some questions. So perhaps I will begin in reverse order. Sakafet, Mr. Scott. Mwela, awesome. So born and raised in Castries, St. Lucia, Arthur Scott has dedicated his life to education and youth development. After 15 years as a teacher, he became principal of the Entrepot Secondary School, where he continues to serve. He has served on national education committees and was the first vice president of the St. Lucia Technical and Vocational Educators Association. He now guides principals associations locally and regionally. He considers generations of students a part of his extended family. And he's here today in his role as chair of the Caribbean Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, CAPS. So, Mr. Scott, please join us. I will move on to Mrs. Andrea Baptiste. I had the pleasure of meeting her just a year ago in the first symposium and policy dialogue. She's the principal of the Ellerslie School. Did I get that right? Yes. Not Ellerslie or Ellerslie Secondary School, but the Ellerslie School, based in Barbados. She's an educator who has worked at all education levels at primary and secondary schools in Barbados, and as a lecturer at the T.A. Marishaw Community College, Grenada. She's been a guidance counselor and education officer here in Barbados as well, and has also taught at the Erdiston Teachers Training College and the University of the West Indies Open Campus. She holds a master's in educational management, a certificate in guidance and counseling, a bachelor's in history from the University of the West Indies, and the Diploma of Education with Distinction from the Erdiston Teachers College in Barbados. She has trained teachers, principals, and guidance counselors across the region. She loves working with young people. I believe being a mother herself helps with that, enjoys writing poetry and stories, and has received several awards at the prestigious Barbadian National Independence Festival of Creative Arts, NIFCA. Mrs. Baptiste? And our third speaker, Dr. Nicole Lynch. She's a UNICEF consultant and counseling psychologist at the Relational Practices Limited, with 19 years of experience in the field of mental health and education. I looked at her and I couldn't figure out how 19 years, but she has made significant contributions to building the capacity of regional educators to create more inclusive and supportive school environments through the implementation of the child-friendly, effective schools framework. Dr. Lynch is known for her advocacy for positive discipline, and she brings a wealth of knowledge on parental engagement. Her presentation explores strategies for cultivating school environments that actively welcome parents and prioritize their role in shaping positive educational experiences. She's first up. Join me in welcoming Dr. Lynch and Dr. Lynch. So we will begin with Dr. Lynch's presentation, and then we will move to Mrs. Baptiste. I will follow up with a conversation with Mr. Scott, and then we will open up the floor. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Would it be possible to have the slides, please? So as we wait, can I ask you to join me in a brief moment of connection? Thank you. Can I ask you to look at someone at your table and say something kind to them? Anyone at your table, and say something kind to them. Anyone at your table, and say something kind to them. Something kind. Good. Now tell me, how does the room feel now? It feels, I'm hearing the word lighter. Yes, it feels lighter, a bit more smiles. That, my friends, is the power of connection, the power of being heard, the power of being seen, and the power of being appreciated. Lovely, isn't it? And that is at the heart of my few minutes this afternoon. Looking at how we move from parental involvement to parental engagement that is characterized by a heart that is seeking, a heart that is seeking to understand, a heart that is seeking to show empathy, and a heart that is seeking to engage. So I will look at the importance of creating connection, having those moments like we just enjoyed, and those moments that can be fleeting, but that can have lasting impacts. We'll look at, some practices for creating inclusive spaces. And I use the word cultivating because much like a gardener tends, I have some neighbors who are out in their gardens every morning. I see them out again in the evening. This is the energy that we must bring to parental engagement, a careful tending and cultivating of that space of sacred connection. We'll look at what we can do to create collaborative relationships, and then I'll share some lessons. So, why create connection? One of the things I remember when I look at my childhood is my granny coming to my primary school and helping the server, those persons who serve the meals in the nutrition area. At the time, I did not understand why my granny was there, why she's coming to help. I didn't understand why her house was the house that the person who helped the children to cross the road would be the house where they would bring the sign and leave there with her in evenings and come in the morning to pick it up. I didn't necessarily understand why on Sunday evenings after I had a good lunch, I was looking forward to sleeping. Every now and then I would hear my mother say, PTA meeting, come, let's go. And we're packed into the car while the parents huddle in a room and we children enjoy the freedom of the pasture. Now I understand. Now I understand what it must have meant for my granny to feel like she could come to the school and assist in those days. Now I understand what it must have been like for those parents to feel like they had a role to play and to look back and to see where their children are today. based on that sacrifice of Sunday sleep. So we know from the research, when parents are engaged, there are benefits. There is improved academic performance. As a psychologist, I'm very, very heartened to see that when parents are more engaged, there is the experience of better social skills. Those children learn to emotionally regulate themselves much better. And we know, those of us in the educational spaces and the mental health spaces, that emotional regulation is a challenge. Do I get a yes about that across the region? You know, sometimes we see persons and they seem calm, but you look back a split second later and that person that seemed calm has now activated from calm to very, very upset about something. So we recognize that there is a need for us to help our children to learn to self-regulate. And motivation. Whenever I work with teachers, they say to me, you know, Dr. Lynch, one of the biggest challenges I face in my classroom is helping my children to want to be there and to want to learn. And we know that when we're able to help parents to engage, that can impact our students' motivation. So we also then, recognizing that that connection makes a difference, want to find a way to make sure that we're including everyone. The word inclusion by definition speaks to not excluding anyone, especially those persons who traditionally will be or would have been marginalized or excluded. So as you see here in this picture, this is a picture that was taken at Milton Lynch Primary School, where they recognized that one of the marginalized groups of parents were male parents, and they embarked on a program to engage dads, fathers, uncles, grandfathers more meaningfully in the life of the school. That meant they were invited to play sports with the children, but they were also taught some strategies on how to help them succeed academically. When it comes to cultivating inclusive spaces, again, we're looking at those persons, especially those who traditionally are forgotten or marginalized. So I wanted to make special mention of the culturally and linguistically diverse populations. We here in Barbados have been hearing in recent days about the free movement across the region among 4 countries or so. And I guess over the last few years, we've also seen in many countries increased migrant populations, increased immigration. So among us, we have neighbors from across the sea who have called our places now their homes. What that means is, if we are truly to be inclusive, when we walk into the schools, it will be important to see their languages, to hear their languages, to have their foods, to have spaces where they feel like, although they're not in their homelands, they are home. And for those parents of children with disabilities, I think one of the things that really comes out when I speak to those parents is the need for support. Oftentimes, they have no one to leave their children with, to take a break, to go to the hairdresser, to get their nails done, to take the car to the mechanic, because persons are uncomfortable or perhaps not sure how to, work with their children. So if we are truly to become inclusive, one of the things that will be important for us is to find ways to support these parents and to help them to recognize that they are not alone. They matter and their children matter too. And as we look towards this inclusivity of not leaving anyone behind, we also want to remember parents who struggle with emotional and mental challenges, or who have children who are struggling with mental or emotional challenges. Coming out of COVID, the research has shown that mental health challenges such as depression and anxiety are increasing among our children. What does that mean? That means, as that song from Sesame Street says, who are the people in my neighborhood? The people that you meet when you're walking down the street? The people we meet when we walk into the schools are people who are wondering and worried and frustrated sometimes and stressed out and scared sometimes about what's happening in their minds, in their emotions, and in the minds and emotions of their children. How do we reach them? How do we help them? So I want to share some of the best practices that we have seen emerge. And again, to share that picture is a picture that was taken with a mom and a daughter at one of our schools here that catered to students with special needs. And this school embarked on a program where they taught parents how to work with their children using positive approaches to discipline. This parent was extremely frustrated. She approached the school. She was at wit's end. And what they were able to do is to develop a system, a relationally based system, where she and her daughter could learn how to be appropriate in their behaviors, each toward the other. So, creating connections. It's a bit of a dance. And here we have a dad and his daughter at the Christchurch Girls' School. This is their family day celebration where they recognize to engage parents. It was about what are the gifts and the talents and the skills that parents have that they can share with the school population. So, creating collaborative relationships, we recognize, is about creating trust, belonging, and respect. And one of the ways we can do that is by engaging first rather than telling first. Building respect, building belonging, and also fostering two-way communication, where it's not a matter of I'm telling you, but I'm asking you. So the lessons we have learned are very much seeped in social and behavior change, where we say we will empathize, we will ask, we will not assume, and we will see you, hear you, and try to connect with you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Dr. Lynch. 19 years of consultancy work and leadership in 10 minutes. No small feat. We're going to move on now to our next presenter, Mrs. Baptiste. Over to you. I will sit here so that I can be within your line of sight, so we can have a pithy presentation and have opportunity to hear from Mr. Scott, who is from, I want to say, Setlisi se deuxième Kaimwa. Anybody know the Creole? I'm practicing. And then we'll be taking your questions.
Yes, a blessed good evening, everyone. She will not get the opportunity to tell me it is time to stop, principal. You will not. You will not. It is a pleasure to be here, and I want my PowerPoint presentation up. Take down Dr. Lynch's. It is time for mine. I am going to share experiences. That is what I will share today in dealing with this particular topic, very important topic of creating connections, fostering inclusive, collaborative parent-school partnerships. And as it was said earlier, we're going to be very authentic, very, very authentic. You're not going to hear all the positive. There are going to be some negatives in there, all right? But we're going to help each other. What am I looking at today? The importance of strong interpersonal relationships, largely because I focus a lot on building life skills. I am a life skills coach. And I'm going to be focusing on factors that definitely affect the relationships that we are trying to build between the school and parents. And of course, as a principal, I think it is important for me to speak about the role of the school principal. The principal, we know, is hardly ever loved in these days. The principal gets all the lashes. Where are my principals today? Do I have any here? Yes. So let's begin. The importance of strong interpersonal relationships. We know for sure that in an effort to build strong schools, we have to reach our parents. As our minister said this morning, parents are not bystanders. They are not bystanders in this situation, in this educational arena. They are the main ingredients. I hope that you remembered that statement. And with this understanding, strong relationships with parents help schools to align their strategic priorities with the dreams that parents and guardians have for their children. True? So we make these fancy strategic priorities. I can tell you at my school, the Ellerslie School, I can just spill it off of my tongue, and I expect my parents to do the same. Strategic priority 1, we want to improve the learning outcomes within the school. We want to improve the ethos of the school. And of course, we want to build stronger partnerships. Those are 3 major strategic priority goals that we have at the Ellerslie School. The students know these goals, the parents know these goals, the non-teaching staff, they know the goals, as well as the teaching staff. What I want to say here today, and I'm looking at the parents, all dressed nice and fancy. Where are you? I need to see where you are. I hope we do not have other stakeholders here other than parents. Where are the parents? Lovely, beautiful, beautiful. Parents, when you see schools making an effort to engage you, reciprocate, respond. We need you to react positively. There are schools that are trying to make a change, and it is imperative that you react or respond in a positive way. Do not renege on your duty to let your voice be heard. There are some schools where this is not a problem, but there are other schools that sometimes you wonder, where are the parents? Why is it that they're allowing such to happen? So I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you today to make sure that your voice is heard. And also, like I said, when you see that schools are making trying to make a difference, you need to join and partner with us to make that difference. We are constantly embracing sustainable and meaningful interventions that help to promote greater engagement. Please notice, I can list some of the activities that will fall under specific strategies that we utilized. Our school improvement plan, which I referred to earlier, and many of our school policies were designed with the assistance of parents. Yes. Our recent policy of promotion policy was actually formulated or assisted in terms of its development. We got the assistance from parents. So we involve parents in many things. We invite parents to be involved in curriculum initiatives. When I was a primary school principal, read with your child at school evenings, to participate in workshops as well, and to teach parents how to navigate the internet or the digital experience. We were able to circulate learning outcomes to our parents, thanks to a lady who's right here, Dr. Hernandez, who I was able to employ, not with any great money, but I asked her, can you come to the Ellerslie School and assist us in how we can look at differentiated instruction? She came, and I remember one recommendation is that parents should have the learning outcomes. They should know what is being taught in the school. So we circulate the learning outcomes at the beginning of the year. We let parents know this is what will be covered. And that, obviously, is good engagement. We have invited parents to be part of national initiatives. We had one called Ready, Set, Go that was in preparation for our school. We usually have something spectacular every September, and parents are involved in such things like that. I see, she's gotten me. At this point in time, I am going to end by saying that there's generally a very high level of goodwill and well-intentioned mindsets behind the school improvement plans of many school officials as we adhere to in loco parentis. So we need your assistance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Baptiste. Now I note why she said I would not be, I wouldn't have to tell her to wrap up because she wasn't looking in my direction. So there was a strategy from the beginning. So you will know that as a Bajan, I speak Bajan, but I'm also practicing the Creole, which is why I'm excited to have Mr. Scott here on the panel. So I'm just going to sit next to him. He doesn't have a presentation. We're just going to have a quick chat, and then we're coming to you, okay? I hope the St. Lucians in the room aren't judging me too harshly. Are there any St. Lucians in the room apart from Mr. Scott, who's been very gracious? Are you judging me harshly? Okay, but I'm working at it. I'm a work in progress. All right, so Mr. Scott, you are a principal. You've been teaching for how many? 30 years?
37.
Almost 40.
Almost 40.
Wow. And you lead Anthropo. But in addition to that, we talked about the fact that you are the head of CAPS. So we've talked a lot about parental engagement, about the fact that it aligns with the kind of outcomes we want academically, physically, mentally, socially for our students. So from where you sit, I want you to give us one key strategy that you see as being critical for schools to consider, for principals to consider, to bring parents into that relationship. I know you talk a lot about family. That's a key word I've heard from you. If you could share with the audience, you know, what that key strategy is, that'd be great, and then we continue the conversation.
Thank you. Well, everybody can hear me. I think it's very important as a strategy to look at the meet and greet. It is very, very important, and most principals have that one shot at getting our parents. And that is when the child gets enrolled at our school, we invite them to the school. Let's have a meet and greet. It is very, very important because you have that one chance to make a lasting impression. And if you don't have the charisma, if you don't have the drive, if people cannot see the genuineness in you, you would have lost them. Some parents are literally coming to the school to get help for their kids because some of them cannot manage their kids in terms of parenting. They don't have the skills. When you create that meet and greet, you can do it in such a way that you can identify sometimes the young parents. We have parents who made kids from the early age, from 15, 16, and they are struggling. They may not tell you that, but if you use your wisdom and tact, you can reach out to them. One of the things parents, they like to know is that we are working together to help develop that child and to help that child be the best version of themselves. And so if we partner and we work together, We can be singing from the same songbook. It means that we will not always agree on the path, but the destination is where it really comes in. And so I tell my parents when I meet them for the first time, we are on a journey. And I would like to know that when we get to the other side, we can be holding hands in hand. You'll be nicely dressed in your dun-dun, as we call it, nicely dressed at the graduation, and we can say, we've done it together. It's a partnership. The meet and greet is a very, very important part. Now, just allow me just this little second. When I became the principal of the Enchipos Secondary School in 2003, what I found was that my predecessor had a system in place where he had a PTA fee. And so parents came in and the parents were able to contribute to the PTA fund. So when I met them, I would tell them, welcome to the family. You are a member of the family of Enchipos Secondary School, and we have a job to do. So when we have the meet and greet is actually sponsored by the parents. And so we can use that now to meet them where they are. Identifying our parents who may be struggling, sitting with them, talking with them, letting them know, working together, we can make it happen. And some of them will literally open up to you and let you know what they are struggling with. And there, as principal, dealing with your PTA, if you're executive, then you can look at the classes that can follow, whether it's online classes or on-site classes, to help support them in the area of need. So sometimes the parents are literally afraid of their own kids. And so they would need the support of the school, the principal, the PTA, so that we can help to raise our young men and women that they may be functional, that they may be good citizens. And this is what we are working towards. Thank you.
Mrs. Scott, I want to come back to being a family, coming in, sharing with you. We've heard a lot about trust, building trust. I know there's often that tension. People are concerned about sharing what is happening in their space. And we've heard that discussion even in the earlier session today delivered with Barbados. How do you go about building trust? And the other question I have for you is relationship with fathers. How are you? Because very often we're seeing women in the space, mothers in the space. And even when people share anecdotes, it's often the role of the mother. What are you doing to build that positive parental engagement with the fathers as well?
One of the things I do when I try to reach out to my fathers is if they come into the initial meeting and I see them at subsequent meetings, I know that I am getting somewhere. But I always try to remind parents that we need to remember that in our growing up, we did not always get things right. So sometimes as parents, and I went to a session recently where I was told a parent may have 2 kids, and the 2 kids will have different experiences with the same parent. We need to let our fathers know that in their trying to manage, trying to raise the kids, they make mistakes. And we all have chapters in our lives that we're not happy about. But the important thing is that we can come together and do things to make things right. And so what we have done at our school, we've actually had breakfast sessions where we invite our fathers to come and have breakfast with the kids. So we do it on a class-by-class basis. The food is actually prepared at home. The children take responsibility for certain things. They bring it to the class. We have a nice setting. The fathers come in, the construction worker, the office worker, they all come in, they sit with their kids. And for some of them, it is the first time that they are actually getting the chance to sit with their parents and have a meal. Because our culture does not always lend itself to that. We give our kids their food, they go to their room or whatever it is, but they are now in school, and that has helped to settle school. Children feel good when their parents are coming, especially when the parents are coming and it's not for something bad. If we keep on calling parents to the school only when there is something wrong, we are going to lose our parents. Because sometimes the minute they see the number, what did that child do? And sometimes the children get licks before the parent even hear what the issue is. So what we need to do is to make sure as principals that we can let the parents know. When we call you sometimes, we just want to know if you're okay, if everything is good. And when we meet them sometimes, we should not be bogging them down with, I had to speak to him last week. No. They are work in progress. Allow kids to be kids. Because kids are kids. They will stumble, they will fall. And sometimes we just need to dust them off. Tell them, watch that language. It's not time for a long lecture. Watch that language and move on. Allow them to grow, allow them to build. Because at the end of the day, our children are fighting so many battles that sometimes even when my door opens and they would just come and just chill, I allow it. You need to do that. So our parents get that opportunity, our fathers, our boys get it. Our girls need it. Our mothers need it. So creating that space for them to feel comfortable is important. But the principal has a role to be as charismatic as possible in terms of winning them over. Because the battle, if you try it by yourself, it is climbing the mountain from the rough side. But getting the partnership, it's a smoother ride. Working together for the benefit of building a better society.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. I really, the point you made about not calling the parents only when things, the wheels are falling off the cart, when things have gone pear-shaped, but getting them involved in the positive experiences, that resonated powerfully in this room. Yeah, and I wanted to now come back to you, Mrs. Baptiste, because I think when we were talking about this session, the fact that you want to open the space and have those positive, the positive parental engagement experiences, one of the things that came out was the challenge of balancing as a principal. We all want the principal to jump in, put the cape on and save the day. You're doing a lot of that. But how are you managing with the teachers and their expectations? Sometimes that's at odds with the students. Sometimes it's at odds with the parents and guardians. How do you manage that day to day?
Very excellent question. The principal is faced with the dilemma of having to represent the students, the teachers, the non-teaching staff, the parents, the Ministry of Education, and even John Public. Yes? So how do I do it? I do it by holding a philosophy dear to me. Micah 6, verse 8. I must be fair, very fair. Yes? I also must understand that I need to have mercy. And the final one, I need to not be puffed up and think I am better than. I need to be humble. That is what drives me, and that is the truth. You want authenticity, right? This is what drives me. Because everyone wants a piece of the principle, and sometimes that's not so positive. But once you understand that you must be fair, so how does fairness translate? It translates by following the rules and regulations, and the rules and regulations will be for everybody. They are there, so the handbook, the student handbook states this, so it must be that for you, and for you. But then mercy comes in, because circumstances may dictate that I must have a little more leniency for your short skirt, because your mom did not get the opportunity to purchase the long ones. So that's how I deal with it. And every single day, principals are faced with that dilemma of representing everybody and yet being very fair.
Yeah.
Very fair. Yes.
I think I'm happy to work with principals and not to be one. Full disclosure.
I didn't want that to happen.
No, but I mean, I honor educators because we know what it is as parents to manage, to work with one or two or three and to release them into somebody else's care and responsibility. It's no mean feat. So we acknowledge, and I think from where I'm seeing the heads nodding, we are committed to working a little bit more closely and to having that fairness and mercy as well, because as it is extended, we also need to give it back.
That's right.
Dr. Lynch, and sorry, this is the chair's prerogative, the moderator's prerogative. I have one more question and then we go. We've talked a lot about the context in the school. We've talked about your work. And if you go back to your work based on what we've discussed thus far, what now? What is that key thing that we need to do based on what you've seen, based on the research, based on the practice, based on what we've heard shared here, that really would unlock the door to those positive and get to the kind of parental engagement we really want to see?
Yeah. I think the question leads to more questions. Questions that I would invite each of us to ask ourselves. What are the implications of a discussion like this for my beliefs around diversity in my school, diversity in my country? What are those things I am putting in place to ensure that I honor and respect and approach with cultural humility all of those persons in my space? And how am I becoming a seeking person? How am I helping my school to become a school that seeks, that goes out there and not necessarily stays within the four confines of this school? But how do I engage with families in their communities? Families are based in communities. How am I learning more about the perspectives of families? Brené Brown says that empathy is, first of all, perspective taking. Am I truly understanding the perspectives, the needs, and the belief systems of those I'm called to serve? So I think it is about becoming more curious, and as Brené Brown says, empathy also shifts away from blame and shame and judgment. So I think it's catching ourselves in those moments, and we all have them, where we might see a parent doing something or saying something and, shift to judge. But to ask ourselves, what might be the need or the belief behind this movement? And how can I move towards, as opposed to disconnect?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Different perspectives, but I think rich and perfect for opening up the floor. So as we open up, I'm going to ask you to share your name, designation, and to ask very pithy questions. We have 13 minutes for the exchange because we want to go back to the core session for the next discussion. So I'm going to open up, and as we open up, I'm asking you to think about what is it that was shared that resonates with you, or is there anything that you want to interrogate further? So the floor is open. Can I ask you to use the mic? We're recording so that persons who aren't here, I can, yes?
And once again, Betty Ann Skinner, Bahamas. My question is to you. Yes.
In the middle? Mrs.
like,
Baptiste, in the middle?
Yes, Mrs. Baptiste.
Yes,
So
okay.
my question to you is, I like that you said to be fair as relates to the principal, and I think that is so important. My question to you, though, how do you manage? Because it's said that, you manage all these children, but you also manage teachers. And that is also a big fight, because sometimes teachers, educators are so unfair. Some educators, they look down on parents, especially if the parents is of a different culture, because we have that dynamics in the Bahamas. We have an influx of Haitians, Jamaicans, Africans, so much. Because I myself, I am first generation Bahamian. My grandfather was from here. My father was from Guyana. My mother's from Jamaica. And so we have something in the Bahamas. I think the Turks Island would know, conch salad. They also say, man, you mix up like conch salad.
Yes.
But I'm first generation Bahamian, and even in the school system, I remember in the primary school system in the 80s, because a female teacher might have disliked a Jamaican female, Because Skinner, my name is Skinner. Skinner, from you say Skinner in the Bahamas, they know it's not Bahamian. They ask you point blank, where you from? Because we know where all the different island names are and stuff like that.
Yes.
And just because of the name, and for some reason they automatically assume Jamaican.
Yes.
Although my father's from Guyana.
Yes.
And the female teacher would dislike you, the student, because your mother is from Jamaica.
Right.
I remember many years ago working in a jewelry store and was told when I just started working there, I'm in the public service now. They said, where you from? I said, well, my mom is from Jamaica, my father's from Guyana. Apparently they didn't hear the part. Lady said to me, point blank, I don't like Jamaicans. I said, well, there's nothing I can do about that. But so I'm asking, when a parent come to you because they have a problem with a teacher, and it's so clear that the teacher is wrong, but you can't tell them that the teacher is wrong, how do you deal with that?
I'll give
Thank you.
I will remind you of what I said earlier. Fairness comes with being merciful and also being humble. The mix, I believe, is very, very important. I can tell you about an experience without revealing too much. I had a situation where a child was in a fight, and unfortunately, the adult in the situation commended the person who would have given her a beating. What did I do? I never embarrassed that adult. I said to the adult, I pulled the adult aside after the parent made the complaint, and I said, you know, I think you messed up here. Just as I had messed up many years ago when I asked a child, are you foolish? And I was pregnant at the time, and he made a comment about the foolish baby I had. I was not upset with him. I know it would hurt you, but that hurt him, all right? So I am saying that what I do is just be fair, try as much as possible not to insult one in front of the other. And I believe most principals here usually do that. You call the adult aside, whether the adult is in the non-teaching staff, whether the adult is on the teaching staff, and you let, have a high level of negotiation, because negotiation skills in this job, they are critical. I negotiated. I think you messed up. I think you can make an apology. And that teacher did. It went well for me on that day. Negotiation skills are critical if you are going to be a leader. And I will repeat, you also have to combine fairness with being merciful and also understanding that you must be humble. You were a child as well. And a lot of us, when we look around the room, we aren't perfect. We are still working on some things, still working hard. Can you imagine an 11-year-old? We're still working on some issues in our lives, and we haven't gotten them right. So what about an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, a teen? That's my answer.
Senior Amatali from Trinidad and Tobago. Excellent presentations. And we have a lot to take back. However, what message would you send to principals who I would say, they plainly, no matter what the parents do or say, some of them see the PTA as a threat and will not have a PTA at their school. Or if there's a PTA, it is only for fundraising only. What message? We are here, one of the highlights, we are forming a Caribbean National PTA. What message would you send to those principals? All the principals are not the same. You know, you all are the ideal ones, and there are many others who are humble, who have mercy, who are fair. But there are those who would not. Up to when I left home, I had to be navigating and helping PTAs. And you know, we have the technology now. So on many chats, we would be on the chats, and it would be a battle with parents and the principal. Oh, what message can we send, and what can we take back coming from this panel today? Thank you so much.
Would you like to answer?
Thank you for your question. We have to accept the fact that some principals do not like the idea of giving up what they perceive as their power. Okay? We have to face it. You understand? Now, not everybody got to their position like it was a standard thing. Some people, they were in the system for the longest while, and as a way of upward mobility, they got that opportunity. But some have not really allowed themselves to use the tools that are available to help really build school, the modern school, where we can allow for the parents to share their views and work together with the school to really make things happen. So there are principals, we have to admit, who are afraid. But the process of informing them, the process of engaging them and letting them know that there is need in this day and age. Look, we have the, as an example, we have the students' councils. Student councils are encouraged. PTAs are to be encouraged because there is a vested interest in the development of the child and the school. And so, accept it for what it is. Not many principals, especially the old school ones, are willing to do that, but I am seeing the modern principal, the principal that is really willing to make things happen, being open to allowing for the PTA to be actively involved. Because so much can be accomplished when you have that. Some people are just afraid of giving up that responsibility or that perceived power. And that, I believe, should not be.
We'll take one more question. I think we've got speakers who are available to you over the next few days.
Yep.
So we're going to take this question and one more. If you can keep it tight, so we allow one other person after you.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm Joan Spencer Hernandez from Jamaica. Very interesting discourse. I have really enjoyed it. One of the things that I find as a researcher and someone who has been in the high school system also, is that I can tell when I walk into a school, usually what's happening. Because if the children, if the students show the kind of love and affection to the principal, and the parents are with the principal, there's going to be a disconnect with the principal and the teachers. Yes? Because if they see, even with fairness and everything that's happening, but if there's that kind of connection between the principal and the parents and the children are happy, the teachers are not usually happy. Yeah? How do you balance that? And also the community. Because if the community in which a school is established is not happy with what is happening in that school, then you have vandalism, you have all kinds of disrespect and so on. But once you see that community working with you, yes, you can make strides, and you know things are a lot better when you have community, parents, teachers. But as an educator myself, we are not easy. Our teachers are not easy. Love them dearly, but once they perceive that you are too much in love with the children and their parents, they see that as a problem with them, because there may be that fairness that you're talking about, but they don't perceive, They tend to believe, and the research backs me up, that you should be on their side no matter what. How do you balance that? Community, teachers, children, parents?
Thank you. We're going to take a 15-second response, a 15-second question, another 15-second response, because we need to wrap it up. So let's.
All right.
In fact, Mrs. Baptiste, let's take the question quickly.
Oh, okay.
And let's just have a final response.
Okay, Shirley and Moss, the Bahamas. I am the parent of children that attend the private school, and I teach in the public school. I struggle with attending my kids' PTA meeting and attending my school's PTA meeting and seeing the discrepancy in attendance. I want to know how you guys go about encouraging the parents to come, because oftentimes I'm listening to the parents at the private school level, they pay in so they can come. How do we get our public school parents to buy in more or encourage them to understand the value of their partnership, their engagement, or their involvement with the school as a whole and with the parents at large?
Thank you. 30 seconds.
I think I answered Dr. Hernandez's question earlier, because I can't go beyond saying fairness is crucial, but I also want to say that the programs that we have, the programs are what will have that kind of engagement. The advocacy that we promote, the agency that we promote as schools, will also help to pull parents in. That is what I have recognized. When parents can see that you're advocating for the best interests, the best interests of their children, then you have their support. So the best I can say to principals, to schools, continue with the programs. Don't get tired. Keep having those programs. What you shared, Madam Trinidadian, I cannot remember the name, is really an anomaly. It really is an anomaly, because generally principals want the PTA to be engaged. Generally. Principals, where are you? Am I not speaking truth? Where are you? You're quiet. I see you, yes.
We see you, we see all of you, and we thank you for being here. We are going to wrap this session up. Keywords: trust, engagement, perspective taking, fair, mercy, being fair, having mercy, humility, not calling parents in when there's a strike against the student, but really when there is an opportunity for positive engagement. So rich conversation, opportunity to get them in the corner and continue. But I thank you for joining us. I thank the speakers. I thank all of the resource persons. And I invite you to join us for the business session and the adoption of the Constitution of the Caribbean Council of National PTAs. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.